This afternoon, government says it hopes to rake in up to 6 billion cedis annually from the newly approved energy sector levy amendment bill to support liquid fuel procurement and servicing of energy sector debts.
Also to come, withdrawal of OPD services by members of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association pushes healthcare delivery to the limit as many hospitals struggle to cope with the labor action.
Plus, Ghana Importers and Exporters Association renewed demand for the immediate termination of the controversial Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited deal with the GRA.
Stories this afternoon, and it's News Central here on TV3. I'm Kemini Amano.
And I am Mawenai Beta. The bulletin starts right now. Now, this afternoon, the minority leader Alexander Penyumakin is currently leading MPs on his side to petition the police hierarchy on the delayed recollation of Ablekuma North parliamentary results. 6 months after the 2024 general elections, constituents there remain without a parliamentary representation, a situation the minority says undermines democratic governance and electoral transparency. I want to take you live right now to the police headquarters, where you're seeing live pictures of the minority leader and his colleagues on the NPP side in Parliament who've done the walk, have arrived at the police headquarters. Noble Crosby Annan is there for us right now. Crosby, walk us through exactly what's happening.
Simple development. They came to present a petition to the police service demanding that the police service provides adequate security for the collation of the Ablekuma North constituency election results. Now, you know that since the 2024 parliamentary elections in the Ablekuma North constituency, months after debate after debate, chaos after chaos, the constituency has not been able to have a representative in parliament as we speak. So the minority today, they came to present a petition to the police service, demanding that they do what is expected of them. Now, earlier too, you remember that the NPP and the NDC, as well as the Electoral Commission, if you like, they were on some ping-pong game trying to say that a particular group of people, group of persons, either of them is responsible for the delay in the collation of the results. In fact, the Electoral Commission had calls to engage with the Election Security Task Force that comprises the police service as well. And the police service made it known to the Electoral Commission that, as well as the general public, that they are not in the business of, declaring election results. What they do is that they provide security for the process. So they asked the Electoral Commission to ensure that they set a date, provide a date plus a roadmap, provide a roadmap that would include a date and a place for the collation of the election results. And I'm talking about the police service, they will be available, they'll be ready to provide the needed security for the collation exercise. So essentially that is what has happened today. The leadership of the minority in Parliament, Alexander Penyumakin, is here. The minority chief whip, Frank Kanodompra, is also here, as well as some other members and leading members of the minority. We cannot see the deputy minority leader. I'm talking about Madam Patricia. We cannot see her here. But we're saying the NPP Ablekuma North parliamentary candidate who has come to join the team now. The NPP Ablekuma North parliamentary candidate has come to join the minority now after they presented the petition to the police service. Now, the understanding is that they are making their way back to Parliament after making their requests known, making their demands known. So essentially, that is what has happened here. The Ablekuma North constituency, hopefully, as a result of this petition, as well as other past engagements between the police service, the Electoral Commission, and some other stakeholders, key amongst them, the NPP and the NDC, with their parliamentary candidates, will be able to finally get their member of parliament, because the constituents also deserve representation. They deserve to have their voices heard in parliament concerning whatever decision parliament is making. They will have a say in the decision-making process of the Legislative House of Parliament. So these members of parliament, they're now making their way back to parliament after presenting the petition here. What they're doing right now as well is a lot of songs, chanting patriotic songs, because in their words, they are demanding action. And it is time that the Ablekuma North constituency residents or constituents are able to be properly represented in Parliament. We'll try and have a conversation with a few of the members of Parliament. We'll try and speak with them.
That's what you see behind me, members of Parliament
What you're seeing now is members of Parliament on the Gamal Abdul Nasser Avenue making their way along that stretch. If you're very familiar with that stretch, right in front of the police headquarters, that's a stretch that takes you to the British High Commission area, and as well you'll be headed towards Parliament, the Ghana Institute of Journalism, now Unimark IJ, amongst many other things. You'll find the Ghana Bar Association on that particular stretch as well. We see the parliamentary candidate of the NPP for Ablekuma North as well present and interacting with media persons as she's joined her colleagues. Let's take you back there right now and take
almost 6 months now. We won the election when we have not been ultimately the result.
You can hear, amongst many other things, she's saying that 6 months and over, there's been no declaration. We know that some months ago, we here had provided details of this and the latest from the Electoral Commission, and then and that's the latest from the Gamal Abdul Nasser Avenue, where the minority is making a return to Parliament after petitioning the police hierarchy, demanding that they make security available for the Electoral Commission to recollate the Ablekuma North parliamentary election result. Let's hear from Frank Anodompre, who earlier spoke to journalists on the reason why they are on the streets, to start off with.
Petition for the immediate provision of security to enable the Electoral Commission to complete the collation of the Ablekuma North parliamentary result. On behalf of the members of the Minority Caucus of the Parliament of Ghana, I write to formally petition your outfit or your office over the continual failure to provide the adequate security required by the Electoral Commission in order to collect and declare the parliamentary results of the Ablekuma North constituency following the 2024 general elections. And I'll proceed to give a bit of a background. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's democratic journey, built over 3 decades of constitutional rule, has been defined by peaceful transitions and credible elections. The 2024 general elections were affirmed by both domestic and international observers, including the European Union Election Expert Mission, as largely credible and reflective of Ghana's democratic commitments. Yet, the Ablekuma North constituency stands out as a shocking exception. Ladies and gentlemen, since December 2024, the parliamentary results have not been declared, thereby denying the people of Ablekuma North their rights to representation under the 1992 Constitution. This is without precedent in the foreign constitute a serious blot on our democratic record. Under Ghana's electoral framework, the Election Security Task Force.
More of that story when the MPs get to Parliament. Right now, however, you should know that you're expected to pay at least 1 cedi more soon on the price per litre of your fuel. That's after Parliament passed an amendment to the Energy Sector Levies Act. Parliament last night witnessed heated debate from both sides of the House as the minority strongly opposed the passage of the bill, insisting the tax is hypocritical after the same administration scrapped other taxes. But the majority would argue otherwise, suggesting the tax is necessary. Now here's how it played out on the floor of Parliament.
To help raise additional revenue to fund the needs in the power sector, the government is proposing an increase in export price of petrol, diesel and related products. The impact will be absorbed by the gains made from the strong performance of the Ghana Cedis. The Speaker, I repeat, the impact will be absorbed by the gains made from the strong performance of the Ghana Cedis. And this will mean that consumers will not have to pay extra for the price of petrol and diesel beginning today. Right, Honorable Speaker, our simulations suggest that there will be no increase in the export price of petrol and diesel in the next window beginning today if the levy is imposed. This is because of a strong Ghana Cedi. Right, Honorable Speaker, the levy will serve as a dedicated source of funding to the power sector, and the proceeds will be earmarked for the procurement of essential fuel for power generation.
Mr. Speaker, it is only important that we engage and you let us know. You come with your justification. You came here to present your budget. You presented your budget saying you are not going to introduce new taxes, new levies. Then you turn around, you say you are repealing e-levy. You are all over the place. Now you are bringing back e-levy. And then you say that the Ghanaian public will not feel it. Mr. Speaker, you repeal e-levy, reintroduce e-levy. That's what you are doing. What are you? This is the e-levy. You have introduced e-levy. Then you say that you run it through certificate of agency. Mr. Speaker,
honorable members,
the e-levy being introduced.
Honorable members, this is a house of record.
What is it?
Honorable members, this is a house of record. The bill introduced, which I have just referred, is Energy Sector Levies Bill.
E-levy.
So this is not electronic levy.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, allow the minority to have its say.
Well, after that heated debate, we know now that the amendment has been passed. But what is the levy now looking like? We'll show you a bit more of those now because we know it's supposed to address a number of issues as proposed in the bill, address the growing shortfalls in the energy sector. We already know that we have a shortfall that needs to be dealt with, but more importantly, also pay our existing producers of power, which would include the IPPs, also pay our state-owned enterprises, and then fuel suppliers as well. We also know that per the proposal of this levy, it will stabilize power across the country to support economic growth and protect households, assuming we are able to do the first two above. The question now will be, what is the state of the debt we see in the energy sector? And that's what you have on your screen at the moment, $3.1 billion US. That's a lot of money, and this is a breakdown of it. We expect that we need some 3.7 billion USD to clean up total sector indebtedness, some 1.2 billion USD projected for fuel procurement costs for 2025 alone, and then some 632 million USD required to restore guarantees. That is the amount of money in totality we require to put our energy sector into some form of stability. So those are the immediate financial obligations as far as the energy ministry or government is concerned. And let's look at what the impact will look like for you. So petrol, the old rate is 0.95. The new rate is expected to be 1.95 cedis, an increase of 1 cedis. Diesel will see the same process with also an increase of 1 cedi. Fuel oil, on the other hand, marine gas oil and LPG, where we don't see any change. But the first two, we expect to see some 20 pesos change there. But here's what the Minister of Finance is saying about this levy. He says that the increase in the levy will not result in a rise in the ex-pump price of petrol and diesel. What's the ex-pump price? That is what you pay when you go and buy your fuel. And he's saying that there won't be any changes in that in the next pricing window due to recent gains from the strong performance of the Cedi. Now, I need you to take note that he didn't say that your fuel price won't go up at all. He says in the next pricing window, it won't go up because obviously the Cedi dollar dynamic on the market is favoring the Cedi. We import, our products, and so we don't expect to see any changes at all. So there you have it. It's a story we'll continue to follow. Let's have a quick conversation with Richmond Roxon, who is a spokesperson for the Energy Ministry. Richmond, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. Why is the ordinary Ghanaian being forced to pay for the inefficiencies one more time of ECG?
Good afternoon to your cherished viewers. The energy sector challenges are enormous, and as we all know, like the finance minister described it, it's the biggest risk that presently affects our economy. Because when you look at the sector, as of January 2025, when this government took the reins of power, you had a debt of $3.1 billion is in there. We are currently, that's for generation alone, currently we are indebted to IPPs by a tune of 1.75 billion United States dollars. Beyond that, you have a monthly deficit of about 2 billion. So even if you plug all these holes, it goes beyond what you describe as the inefficiencies. Because even if they were efficient by 100%, there's a component that is not part of the electricity tariff, which is the fuel. What it is that we have two fuels that we use. We use either liquid fuels or natural gas. For the liquid fuels, averagely this year is projected that we'll spend $1.2 billion to purchase liquid fuels. And like I mentioned, it is not part of the tariff structure. Over the period, what has been happening is that the government of Ghana has been supporting us, been making provision for that. But because our energy mix has increased, now thermal is about 70% of it, what it means that every now and then we'll be spending more money on fuels. And that is why, looking at the windfalls that we've gained over the period, as of January 2025, the average price of fuel is around 16 cedi 50 pesos. As of today, is around, some OMCs are doing 11, some are doing 12. So the government is saying that, yes, there's been significant reduction in the fuel price, and that the people of Ghana should support the government with 1 Ghana cedi on each liter of fuel.
But why will the people want to do that, Richmond? Especially when let me create the preamble so that you can answer me. Why would the people want to do that when they are asking you to make it easier for them? The dollar cedi dynamics comes in favor of the cedi. The people can get a respite, and here comes the government saying, "I want to collect that money back from you." Why should we bear that? Why is the government going for the low-hanging fruit instead of doing the hard work?
The government is doing all the hard work. It's not just the lower-hanging fruit. If you look at the gains that we made within the period, the government is not introducing this at the time fuel price is at 17. No. The hard work has been done, and the hard work is still ongoing, and that is why fuel prices have moved from an average of 16.5 to 12. The government is only pleading with Ghanaians to support it. Well, if you look at the other sectors, if you look at, for example, the cost of the fuels, government is putting together a second gas processing plant to be able to reduce the amount of money we spend on liquid fuels. If we are spending 1.1 billion now on liquid fuels, once the gas processing plants 2 comes on stream, they're going to spend half the cost. That will mean that the amount of money we need for liquid fuels will go down. Beyond that, the government is exploring to get more gas from Nigeria, also exploring to get more gas from our fields, BNI, tallow fields as well, to make sure that the components of liquid fuels are reduced drastically. But if you look at the sector as a whole, if this critical intervention is not made at this point, we may face challenges when it comes to our financing as a country. And that is why the government is pleading with Ghanaians that yes, you've made a windfall. The cedi is strengthened now. The exchange rate has moved from 17 to about 10 now. We don't expect prices to go up anytime soon. Even in this window where it has been introduced, the prices at the pump will still remain the same. It won't change because of the measures that the government has put in place. So basically, that's what the government is saying, that let's all together resolve the challenges that we have in the power sector. The other measures that have been put in place, in introduction of PSC, in billing and collection by ECG, collection of revenue or payment of electricity bills by all MDs. All these are part of a broader framework to be able to resolve the debt, pay the debts that we owe IPPs, pay the generation debt, pay the sector debt, which currently stands around $3.7 million, so that it will give it a clean bill of health. The objective is to make sure that at all material time, the government of Ghana is supplying reliable, stable power to the people of Ghana so that we can do our businesses or can get electricity in our homes.
So Ghanaians will have to pay this extra 1 cedi up until when?
What it is that there's a work plan. What a work plan or roadmap is that we'll be able to deal with all these challenges concurrently. And like I mentioned, you're dealing with the sector losses, the challenges, you're dealing with the inefficiencies, you're dealing with the procurement issues, you're dealing with the fuel issues. Once all these things are put in place and then we are seeing progress, from time to time the government will review it. And then once the review is done, it's possible that the levy of 1 cedi may be reduced by half, by 30%, or it may be abolished depending on what the factors will be at the time. So it is not a straitjacket to say you want to do this for 5 years, I want to do this for 3 years, because if it's 3 years and then the problems are resolved ASAP, why not? And don't forget, His Excellency the President has said that by end of 2026, the sector's debt must be cleared. So those are the timelines that the minister responsible for energy and finance are working with to ensure that these challenges are dealt with.
You tell us that you don't even know when this levy will go into sunset, in effect, will end, when we will stop paying that extra 1 cedi at the pump. But then at the same time, you tell us that you're dealing with ECG efficiencies to ensure that you plug all the loopholes and rake in more revenue. There's already enough in the build-up for fuel prices at the pump in terms of levies and taxes on it. And yet you want us to pay the 1 cedi in perpetuity. It sounds like the government wants to swing dollars.
No, that's not a fair question. Number one, I never said that this has to be paid in perpetuity. No. What I said was that there's a work plan, there's a roadmap that the government is working with. The first one is that His Excellency the President has committed to dealing with the energy sector debt by end of 2026. So that alone is a roadmap. Beyond that, the government is also tackling the issue that has to do with the fuels. I also made mention that if you look at natural gas and liquid fuels, if you look at the price comparison, you will notice that natural gas is almost half the price of liquid fuels. And that is why, one, there are attempts and conversations to be able to increase the supply of natural gas. So if you are spending 1.1 billion as a country on liquid fuels, and now we have more supply of gas through the various supply chains that we are looking at, what we mean is that this time we won't be paying 1.2 billion again. You'll be spending 600 million, which will mean that the amount of money that you needed to buy fuels will reduce drastically. Beyond that, there's also a construction of a new gas processing plant. What it will mean is that once that comes on stream, that 600 million deficit you would have will also come down drastically. And then looking at the inefficiencies and then the reforms that government has put in place, the ministry has put in place, at the end of the day, it will help to reduce the cost, and then a review can be made. So it's not that the taxes will be paid in perpetuity.
I see. But I mean, I was hoping that with this elaborate explanation you have given us based on the work you have done, if indeed there was the intention to put a sunset clause in the bill, it would have been added. Because you have done elaborate work on this, you know how far it could take us, what else you need, at what point in time, except a timeline. And it sounds a bit unfair to the Ghanaian people to continue to pay this money and not know when it will end as we solve the problems of the energy sector. But thank you so much for talking to us.
No, it's important that I respond to what you just said.
Thank you.
Like I said, that it's a plea that the government is pleading with the people of that. We know that these are difficult times. It's a difficult moment, and that's why the government continues to work assiduously to make sure that these challenges are done. The government has worked tirelessly to make sure that the economy has stabilized. The exchange rate has seen significant appreciation of the Cedi from 17 to 10 is significant, and that has an adverse effect on prices at the pump. The same way the government has worked so hard to make sure the fuels move from 16 to 12. So the hard work is being done. It's not as if the government is just throwing, is just burdening Ghanaians with it without looking at the impact it will have on Ghana, or without working hard to resolve the problem. No, we moved from 17 to 10, and we moved from averagely 17 to 11 in some cases, or 12 when it comes to fuel prices. So yes, you have the commitment of the President and the Minister for Energy. And most importantly, let me say this, unlike what we saw with ESLA, where the ESLA funds were diverted and used to pay pension funds and diverted to other sectors, that is not what will happen in this case. The money to be channeled to the purpose of this tax, this levy, the money to be channeled in productive use of it. And when the time comes for a review to be done, definitely there will be a review to bring it down.
Richmond, I have a feeling we'll talk again soon, but we'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much. Richmond Roxon speaks for the Energy and Green Transition Ministry. We'll stay on the subject because the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers says the increase in the energy sector levy is an overkill and a burden on the ordinary Ghanaian. Executive Secretary Duncan Amoah, speaking on TV3 New Day, urged an audit of ECG's books rather than an imposition of a tax.
Unfortunately, it is not the people who, if you permit me to say, have mismanaged the power sector that are rather being asked to pay. It is not the proceeds of oral which has gotten the entire Ghanaian population supporting that whatever monies that have been misappropriated over the period should be recovered and used for whatever, developmental programs that we want to embark on. It is rather the same old playbook that is being revisited at this point, and I say this advisedly. We have introduced ESLA, expectation of using that to mitigate energy sector debt or legacy debt. 10 years after, we have not been able to achieve that aim. You wonder what would inform us at this point to still come back to the same playbook and say, look, we have additional $3.1 billion. So this time round, we are just passing on 1 Ghana cedi for every consumer. That for us is an overkill. It doesn't solve the problem. We would have gone for a thorough audit. We would have gone for the minister to look at ways of preventing the leakage or the...
Duncan Amoa is Executive Director of COPEC. We'll take our very first break. When we come back, we'll tell you how the withdrawal of OPD services because members of the GRNMA are on strike is affecting healthcare delivery today.
You're welcome back here on News Central. Now, striking nurses and midwives have, from today, withdrawn all emergency services at various health facilities. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, per a directive cited by TV3 and forwarded to all members, indicates they should stay away from work from June 4 to June 8, and the nurses working at OPDs, public health services, specialist clinics, antenatal and postnatal care services are further directed to stay off work. The nurses are on strike over what they say is the overly delayed implementation of their collective agreement. I want to show you what the impact has been like this morning. All throughout today, let's connect with Gordon Asiedu, who's currently at the Ablekuma Clinic, where nurses have vacated their post, leaving patients without care. Gordon, first off, talk to us about what the impact is like.
Right, Mawena, it's really an unfortunate situation here at the Ablekuma Clinic, and we have been to quite a number of facilities even before coming in here. First, I went to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. We've been to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital as well, and Rich. At the moment, this is the OPD site at the Ablekuma Clinic, and just like you can see, the place is virtually empty. On a regular day when you come here, it would be really busy with nurses attending to patients, you know, taking their vitals, testing their sugar levels and all of that. But that is not happening in here today. You can even see some registration books that have been left here, as though no one really cares about exactly what is happening. But earlier, what really struck me most was a pregnant woman that I engaged who came in saying that she was battling a severe stomach pain as of last night and came around today to seek medical attention. But once she got here, she was told to return home, and she was crying uncontrollably. But we had to intervene, and at the moment she has been taken care of and will be heading to see a doctor soon. So I just want us to have a quick conversation with her to know what they've been able to do for her and if she's okay with the services as she's about to see the doctor. Ms. Zilla, good afternoon once again. Earlier you were in tears hoping that you would be able to see a doctor. Were you aware that the nurses would be striking today?
No, I have no idea. I have no idea. Yes.
So after the intervention, what exactly happened before you were being processed to see the doctor?
I was taken to the ward, to the antenatal ward, and they asked me to come and see the doctor. Unfortunately, they take care of me, and I went and see the doctor, so I'm going back to the ward again.
Right. She looks quite okay. Just like I indicated a few minutes ago, she was in tears, crying uncontrollably. But these patients here have also been sharing some devastating news regarding to them being here at the facility and hoping that they would have nurses to attend to them so that they can be able to see the doctors. Usually, they would pay for services for their sugar test, which is for diabetic patients. And this woman here claims she's paid for that amount, but here at the OPD, there's no nurse to test for the vitals to know what her sugar level is before they can be able to put that on paper so she can go inside and see a doctor. And that really worries her. Inti uko ena yeji usikano edi asem no wakachero.
Omo ankashi anchirame. Me de se mi mekoha ena yesi mbetu askano ha. Te me baya no mu bisa me sa yesi mbetu ana mi so mbabe checking me temperature anyway, and almost see you, and almost mammy tia. Tensing almost me buy a hand empty.
Now, before so which I know him say, na it's your hand.
Baha, the be a band, a tia, and a bar no much check, and to me, them Musa be on me, Jumanti, a giano, me buy an empty, or be a ye, Jumamin. Tis a na chia junior. Young would be what doctor, no be or no any Jumano. Nurse of one share and son, I call doctors and all.
So ideally, Mawena, the doctor would have to get all of that information before they will be able to know exactly what is wrong with the patients before giving the prescription of medication for them. But that unfortunately is not happening, and I won't be able to go to the consulting room to know exactly how that will pan out, but I know the doctors definitely will know how to do their job. But if the nurses were here at the OPD department, then definitely it would have been a smooth journey for both the patient and also the doctors who will be attending to them. So that is the rather unfortunate situation here at the Adabraka Polyclinic. Some patients who have waited for quite some time have decided to leave, and the place now it's virtually empty and abandoned. Earlier, we spoke to a regional chairman for the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association who came here to monitor, and he made mention of the fact that none of them are going to be on site to work until their conditions of services are discussed and them arriving at a conclusion that, okay, everyone should come to work at a particular date. They were also monitoring to ensure that if any nurse is seen on site working, then there would be some lay down punishments for them as well. So yes, that is what is happening now, Mawena. But before we go, let's take a look at the video earlier when I was interacting with a woman who came here to sought for care, and she was in severe pain before we intervened.
But one of nurses one and cashier and show.
What actually said we call OPD. And OPD for so also would you do. So I was saying for free.
Now we have no anything. But most of them been on.
And that was the woman earlier Godwin interacted with. It's not just in the capital that this challenge is persistent. Let's take you to the Ashanti region, because we know the withdrawal of OPD services by members of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is pushing healthcare services to its limit in the many hospitals in the Ashanti region. Ibrahim Abubakar has been monitoring that for us. He's joining us right now to assess the impact. Ibrahim, from what we've seen, quite a number of patients turning up at these facilities, but it does appear the nurses are not working.
Exactly, Mauna. So I've visited 4 major hospitals in the Ashanti region. Talk about Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, Suntresu Government Hospital, Menchia Hospital, and also the regional hospital, which is Kumasi South Hospital. And the situation is quite peculiar. You walk in there, you find a lot of stranded patients, but there are no nurses to take care of them. Even though we have the doctors working, but we have other services that are being handled by nurses, and for that matter, you find them stranded. In fact, the medical superintendent admitted that they have been notified earlier that this industrial action will begin today, but they were not aware that emergency services will be included. So you go to the OPD section, you find no nurse there, but there are physician, consultant or assistant who are in there. So some of them are now doing the work of nurses and also their work as well. So they have to take vitals and other things. So for those areas, even though patients are being assured of being attended to, but the waiting time is high. So if you are supposed to, for instance, spend 30 minutes, you end up spending more than an hour before you'll be able to be seen. And if you go to the ANC of Suntresu Government Hospital, for instance, they are stranded there because the nurses are also not there. In fact, there was a woman we met who has been transferred to another private hospital because the nurses were not there to attend to her. In fact, she even had oxygen on, but the family had no choice than to move her to other private hospital. I earlier engaged with some of the patients, and let's listen to what they have been sharing with us.
As you can see, almost say on strike. Normally, nurses are on strike, so I'm on general. So I have to take her to another facility to see whether they can take it or not. So I don't know what will happen next. It's very painful, but as you can see, she's on oxygen now. So what should I do? I don't know what to do.
this morning I has saying, Yaba in your be a man in sharing. Yet it's yes, and yet the son. And Sabine won't pay be no on your mom, no more sharing. Yes, throw more, yes, rabine.
Yes, rabine somewhere. If it's on a pay, but says so crock a now. About 10 o'clock 11. It has yes, a nurse need be a my sober shay. Yes, Roma, I buy boy, Naya.
All right, Ibrahim, we know that the facility managers as well, you've been speaking to some doctors. What have they been telling you in terms of what they are doing to mitigate the impact of this industrial action?
Well, they said that they have some other rotational nurses who are not part of GRNMA, so they are supporting. And also, they have tasked some of the medical officers to help in that regard. But even with that, for Suntresu Hospital, for instance, you realize that the nurses form about 90% of the medical staff there. So it's quite difficult for them, and they are just hoping that government will intervene so they resume their services. Let's listen to what Dr. Ejakupoku of the Suntresu Hospital, medical superintendent, has been telling us.
We are aware since last week that by Wednesday, if nothing happens, they are going to withdraw their service from the outpatient department. In fact, we didn't know that they will also add emergency. So for now, all outpatient department, they have withdrawn their services, and then the emergency to withdraw their services. Patients are here. We are making arrangement to do as much as we could. Those ones that will not involve a lot of nurses' work, we will do. But critical cases that will involve a lot of nurses, will advise the patient to seek treatment elsewhere.
And that's my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar providing details there for us from the Ashanti region. But we know this is a high-impact situation, not just in the Greater Accra and then the Ashanti region as well. Kamini, you want to take us elsewhere?
Indeed. We'll take you now to the Western region, where Irama Smith reports that a withdrawal of OPD services by members of the Nurses and Midwives Association has started biting at the Kwesi Government Hospital, with some non-medical staff having to perform the duties of some nurses.
One of the nurses strike here at the Kwesi Government Hospital, and after moving around, what I can say about the situation here is chaos under control. I say this because, you move to consulting rooms and you see people like nutrition officers, HR and others, physician assistants, and where there are doctors as well. And even as we are here, I saw an emergency being brought in. No nurses to stabilize a person before being taken to the next steps. What I saw was an admin assistant helping to convey the patient to a consulting room. This is what is happening here. When you go to the OPD, there are no nurses there. When you go to the antenatal, there are no nurses there. The dental facility, all the places where they have daily activities, patients come in daily, you will find no nurses there. Even as we speak, I've seen babies being brought in for their vaccinations and other care, fresh babies, and they have to be turned away because the nurses are not here. I interacted with one such mother.
To my surprising, when I came, they said they are on strike. The nurses are on strike.
So what do you intend to do now?
Seriously, I don't know. I don't know what to do right now. And it's important for my child to have the vaccination on 6 weeks. So right now, I'm confused.
I've also been speaking to the medical superintendent, Dr. Osei Frimpong, who seems to be at his wit's end. All that he's saying is that government should please quickly intervene to deal with the situation.
It's not an easy situation at all. I think whatever should be done to let them come back should be done. Otherwise, if there is any problem with the patients, it falls back on the facility. Let's assume a BP wasn't measured well and the patient suffers the consequences. The patient can come back to the facility that you didn't take good care of me, and we will suffer the consequences. So I think whatever should be done for the nurses to return, I would ask for that. Yes.
Earlier on, I spoke to the HR manager here, who is also assisting in one of the consulting rooms, and she explained that earlier in the day, around 7:30, there were rotational nurses around, but she saw them leaving, and when she inquired, she was told that they can only work under supervision of the nurses.
The nurses were here in the morning. I came here around 7:30, they were here. But according to the information I'm getting now, they are saying they have to work under supervisions. So at the moment, I don't see them around here. Yeah, so they are not working.
What impact is it going to have on the administration of this facility?
In fact, it's very difficult. That one, I have to say it. Without the nurses, it's something, because the nurses have to take care of them before going to the doctor. And as at now, if you don't have doctor and the nurses here, it's very, 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 very.
Smith with that report from the Western region. Away from that, the Ghana Importers and Exporters Association is demanding the immediate termination of the controversial contract between the government and Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML, describing it as a blatant violation of transparency, accountability, and value for money. Addressing the press, the association issued 5 key demands to President John Dramani Mahama and relevant state agencies, urging swift action to safeguard public funds and restore trust in Ghana's governance and procurement systems.
SMS deal. The Office of the Special Prosecutor and other anti-corruption bodies are monitoring development closely. International development partners and investors who are already worried about Ghana debt and governance, they're paying attention to how this matter is handled. Our demands to the President of the Republic of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama. We have a demand. 1, the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana hereby makes the following 5 demands to President Mahama and the current government. 1, to terminate the SML downstream petroleum contract with immediate effect, because MPA has their own system. And MPA is paying, and I'm sure there's another source provider that is providing that system to MPA. And so if MPA is paying for their system, and GRA is also paying the same downstream work, this is clearly duplication. I would strongly believe that this is wasteful, and this money can be channeled. 2, in addition, the fully published KPMG audit report make public all payments made to SML since 2018. We wanted to publish it. Let us all see how much they paid. 3, recover all monies paid for services deemed redundant, because we are told that MPA has their own system. And I guess highlighted that one here. We cannot continue wasting money to gutters like that. Recover all monies paid to service deemed redundant, unverified and unsupported.
This afternoon on By the Numbers, the city will remain between 10 and 12, a point President Mahama says is good for both importers and exporters. Today on By the Numbers, we evaluate the true value of the Ghanaian cedi and what it really means when the cedi gains value. First, let's listen to President Mahama on pegging the cedi between 10 and 12 against the dollar.
Appreciation in the value of the cedi is one that we have kept watching. It's a balance between imports and exports. What it means is that it makes your imports cheaper and your exports more expensive. And so there must be a fair balance to try and achieve the true value of the cedi. Some people say, oh, it will come down to 4. But of course, we know the true value of the cedi is not 4. And if it went as far down as 4, it will kill all your export businesses. And so myself, the governor, and the finance minister met and discussed it. And they think that the real value of the cedi is anywhere between 10 and 12. So I think that going forward, anything between 10, 11, and 12 as a band where the cedi operates will be a fair value, both to encourage our exports, but at the same time not make imports so cheap that.
The arguments have been made that this current administration left the cedi at 4.7 to the dollar. Then, under the NPP administration, it went as high as 15.64 to the dollar. And the big question is, what is preventing us from taking it back there? The arguments you heard the president make is that it may hurt the country's exports. Let's take you to the magic board right now and get details as to what all of that could mean and why the president makes that argument, and then perhaps show you a trajectory of where we've come from in terms of the cedi to dollar relationship and where we are at this particular point in time. So this is how much, in terms of Ghana cedis, we received for our exports for the year 2024. If you want to peg that per the US dollar, 20.6 billion US dollars is what we received for all of our exports. And we work the math and we say it hovers around 14.31, the rate averagely, which you want to calculate what 20.6 billion US dollars is in Ghana cedis. But let's try and show you a bit more on what all of this means. Since the year started, we've seen an appreciation rather of the cedi as against the US dollar, where we currently stand at 10.29. And this means that our exports have gone up in value terms by some 38.9%. So what does that mean? That means that before, or in 2024, when our exporters were paying us in terms of a value term for the goods we produce in the country, they'll be paying 20.6 billion US dollars. But currently, because of the good work the city has done, they're expecting to pay 28.6 billion US dollars. That's the argument that's been made, that the exports from this country is becoming more and more expensive. I want to show you one more thing here just before we look again at the trajectory. And the key risks, what the appreciation of the cedi and the argument being made, price pressure, where that 38.9% higher export prices reduces Ghana's competitiveness on the global market. It could see a decline in terms of our exports as buyers will seek cheaper alternatives on the international market as well. Then there could be, the industries could face profitability challenges, because when that happens, the export market begin to look for cheaper sources of the Ghanaian commodities that are coming onto their market. Then profitability could be a challenge. There will be fiscal gap concerns. Job losses will come up a lot later. And then we could be suffering trade deficit. Because remember, last year we posted surpluses. And it's been one of the many things that we've used as an argument in terms of the economy and what all of the things look like for us as a country. And so those are the risks. I just want to show you quickly what the cedi trajectory has been like, and that's going to come up on your screens right now at this particular point in time, and then we quickly run out of the studio for you. And so we started between 2009 at 1.43. We've done the journey up until now. We saw in 2022 where we had serious challenges with the economy that hovered around 14.7. And remember, these are rates from the Bank of Ghana. The black market provided very different ratings, but currently we're at 10.25, and so many have made the argument that we should go down lower. I made the argument that I want to see 8, I'll be honest. But
where we want to go to is 2009.
You want to see 2009?
Yeah. We want a repeat of that.
Harmful for our exports as well. But anyway,
it's a whole debate.
Yeah, it's an entire debate. But that's it for you, by the way of by the numbers. And then maybe we can do a quick chat as to where realistically this should be.
Well, we've got some news just coming in this moment. Accra High Court has convicted the aide of Chairman Wontumi, Andy Thomas Owusu, of corruption after the court adopted his plea agreement with the prosecution. He is now to pay some 200,000 cedis as restitution and a fine of 500 penalty units, equivalent to some 6,000 cedis. That you have it on the screen. He is charged alongside Charles Bissell in that case that has been in court for a bit now.
For a quick way out.
A quick way out, indeed.
He's entering into a plea with the Office of the Special Prosecutor. 200,000 cedis as restitution and then an additional 6,000 cedis. Wonder what that does for the substantive with Charles Bissell, because he has pleaded not guilty and is seeking to go the full haul. The OSP has to come up with their argument in court. Then he as well may decide whether or not he opens his defense. And then we see how all of this goes. But
absolutely,
that's just the latest.
And as we see in that there will be no jail term for Andy. It would appear that it's part of the plea bargain. And so he'd only pay the restitution and those court penalties as well. And then that will be it for him. But we'll keep an eye closely on the Charles Bissell case since he is in court. And we'll give you updates as they emerge.
That's it for us. From us this afternoon, I am Awena Igbe.
And I am Kemeni Amano. As always, pleasure coming your way. More news on 3news.com. Bye-bye from us.